protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Relates to COVID, and it's requiring, as I said all along, where I have authority, mandating masks be worn, social distancing be kept on federal property, on interstate commerce, etc. So this is the first one I'm signing.
It is Sunday, January 24th, 2021, and this is take 2 of us going live. Don't worry, we'll make Beacon do the striptease again. And we're all going to greet ourselves all over again and pretend like this is the first time we're seeing each other. Hello, everyone.
Hello, new people.
Lovely to see all of your faces.
Wow, I feel like I haven't seen you in such a long time.
This is the beauty of
changed
everything
so
broadcast over the internet during COVID times. The incessant glitches.
Technical difficulties.
Well, we all said hello. Everyone's doing fine. Everyone's doing great. We're all alive. So we're gonna jump into it at the risk of Ecamm or the internet or someone trying to sabotage me, which it already has. I'm showing that it already has sabotaged this. It's showing that it's interrupted again. But we're gonna go ahead and record this, and then I will just upload it. So sad face to all the people that won't be able to watch it live this week. So let's get started. It's been a big week in politics. A lot has happened. The biggest of which was that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were inaugurated to the next president and vice president of the U.S. And Joe Biden, had a very scaled down inauguration compared to presidents past. There's usually, a very extravagant balls and parties and a parade with people lined up and down Pennsylvania Avenue. But because of COVID-19 and because of the security threats, because of the insurrectionists that attacked the Capitol a few weeks ago, there was over 25,000 National Guard troops that basically enclosed the entire capital city. So he had a much scaled down event. Lady Gaga sang the national anthem. There was a firefighter that signed the Pledge of Allegiance, and then J-Lo came up and sang, and Garth Brooks was there. It was very strange to see Garth Brooks. But then he walked over to Pennsylvania Avenue. There's a bunch of awkwardness because, there was some confusion around who was going to let him into the White House. He almost didn't make it in at the last minute because the door was locked. And then he started signing executive orders. But let's start with the inauguration. It's finally, and now we can officially say that Trump time is over, right? There's no secret surprise that's gonna pop out and shock us. But I don't know if anyone. I know I watched the entire day of inauguration stuff. We'll call it stuff. But what was everyone's thoughts as they were watching, as they saw it, or as they caught clips, or then read about what happened afterwards? We can start with Greg. Greg, what were your thoughts as you were watching? I know you were watching. You and I were texting about the enormous bird that Lady Gaga had on her chest as she sang the national anthem. So, Greg, we can start with you. What were your thoughts? Where do you feel like you're at with everything in the inauguration?
And I think I made this comment to you, and I think I made it to both my sister and my godmother on a call yesterday. I think that this was the inauguration that we needed, as opposed to inaugurations in which we've had in the past that were that had all of the bells and whistles and all of that other stuff. It was really good to see a really toned down inauguration that was also very intentional. And so despite the two people that were inaugurated, everything else around it, so everyone who stepped up had some level of significance. From the fire captain in Atlanta who did the Pledge of Allegiance, who signed it, also who did the sign language, as someone that is, that can hear, that, that doesn't need sign language, that still touched me in such a way. Because I think that for, people who needed that, they felt seen in that moment. They felt very seen in that moment. I thought it was good from the beginning to the end, throughout the entire day, and it ending with Katy Perry and the fireworks and stuff like that. So despite, again, the politics of the politics part of it, the ceremony was really, really good. I'm glad we got, I'm not glad, let me take that back. Well, I guess I can say that. I'm glad we didn't have the 8 inaugural balls. I don't think it's just, like,
Someone somewhere is gonna pull your card for saying that.
I know. I just had to think that, like, no. I'm not glad that we're in COVID so that they couldn't have a ball. But, I think it's unnecessary. There's this part of me that's always seen it as, just unnecessary. Because who wants to watch all of them just party throughout the entire night? You're just really watching politicians and people with money partying all night long. Like, again, that's why I said that this was the inauguration that we needed, because there was this connection to a lot of the stuff throughout the day. So I missed the parade across America, but I heard even that was really, really good. So yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely. Someone can pull my card as well. I'm also glad that there wasn't like 8 balls in which like there's a camera panning to a different dress, and Joe's also like 108, so I don't think he would have made it through 8 balls. He's, come like 6 o'clock, he was ready for bed, but he's like, I've got these 17 executive orders to sign in the Oval Office, and then this TV show this evening. But I will agree with you. I think that there was like a number of different emotions that I was feeling, and one of them was, although I know that like Biden is no longer, or I know that Biden's not going to be that much better. There will be like some change in like very superficial ways, which has already started to happen with his executive orders. But it did feel like, I felt like this deep sigh of relief, like Trump no longer has this tremendous amount of power that comes by being the president, that like he could throw a punch right at me, right in the face, like right before he left, like pow, like guess what? Everyone that's not white is going to get deported out of the US. Like some crazy shit that he would pull like that. And so I did feel like, I was like, like Trump time as president is finally over. Now we get to deal with Trump, the like U.S. citizen. Vega, what were your thoughts on the inauguration?
Well, I'll be honest. I only really watched the up until after the swearing in, and then I kind of just stopped because I'm like, all right, cool. And I saw what I needed to see. I saw a little bit of the other festivities as well. Like that, instead of having the luncheon, that they had the walk around in the rotunda, and that's about it. I honestly, I was watching more so because I wanted to see what kind of shenanigans the Democratic Party was going to pull out to kind of give the facade that they're trying to get back to some sort of normalcy. And you know what? Like, I'm not going to knock on it either. Like Greg said about the person doing sign language. Like, yeah, of course. Like, that's something that should be normalized more often. I was side-eyeing J-Lo because, as a as someone of Puerto Rican descent, her singing like this like pro-America song just really rubbed me the wrong way. Also the fact that they asked J-Lo to sing, that's kind of unfortunate, but uh other than that, like I didn't really
So
like, it was
can
pretty
we pause the
straightforward.
politics for a
Okay.
quick minute and talk about J-Lo? What is the beef that people have with J-Lo? What, like after the inauguration, like the social media like went crazy because J-Lo they were like, how dare you have a backup singer sing at the inauguration? And I was like, where did all this J-Lo hate come from? Where did it come from? Like, who can explain to me the J-Lo hate? I'm not a J-Lo fan. I thought that she did a good job. Like, yeah, that song, I was like, whoever chose this song, like, come on. But I didn't think she sang bad. But people were really dogging that J-Lo was singing at the
No.
inauguration.
Well, part of it has to do with the fact that like they keep tapping her to sing when, for all intents and purposes, she doesn't exactly have the range. I mean, she's not a bad singer. It's just,
That part.
when you look for somebody to sing, you want somebody who's good at it. I'm again, I like some JLo songs, and I have cared for JLo in the past. Lately, not so much because she's on that like pro-colonialism bullshit, and also because I hate her husband. But whatever. Uh, those are all
What's
my
wrong?
personal
What did he do?
reasons as to why. Oh well.
Now let's
So,
do it. Let's talk about A-Rod.
Going back all the way.
Oh my god, this is not politics, but at the same time. So, the New York Yankees, when he got brought onto the team, he was one of the most expensive athletes of all time. He was super arrogant. When he was asked to play on the World Championship baseball tournament, they asked him if he wanted to play for the Dominican team because he's of Dominican descent. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm American. And it's just like he went on this whole like anti-Dominican thing, and I'm just like, dude, you don't have to do this. Like, you're already light skinned with green eyes. Like, people already are questioning whether or not you are Dominican. Like, anyways, all of that to say is that he's a jerk, and I don't like him, and he wasn't that good on the team anyways. This is back before when I used to love baseball.
Oh my! Wow, PoGo Box is about to take a whole turn. We're about to take a whole turn tonight. Oh wow!
Listen, if you think this is impassioned, you should see my mother. She is a diehard Yankees fan from day one, and she will fight somebody over this team. So.
All right,
I only got like a small percentage of her passion.
I will
only
say,
know, like, to say like shady things about different teams. Like the Yankees just always have had all the money, so it's embarrassing when they don't win World Series because they're the richest baseball team. Or talking shit about the Patriots because they cheat all the time and stuff like that. That's all I know is just saying shitty things about teams that I care absolutely zero for.
I mean, that's what most straight folks do, spend their time doing, talking shit about teams. So, all right. Well, so sorry for the interruption, but I wanted to check in on J-Lo because I saw all of the J-Lo commentary, and I was like, I'm not a J-Lo fan, but I thought she did an okay job. I'm sorry. Go back to politics.
I think also, to be fair, it's not like what was it? America is great, or whatever the song is called. Like America the Beautiful. I don't remember. Okay, but like it's not exactly like a song where you have to show a lot of vocal range. So it's almost appropriate that it was J-Lo that did the song.
Right, exactly. they wanted it was more J-Lo. It was more for what J-Lo represented anyways. I mean, of course, it's politics.
Right.
It's a Latina from the Bronx, know?
Yep. See, so that's why I think that I didn't care about like all the other stuff, because I felt like it represented more important things to me than like J-Lo's average singing. I was like, never in my lifetime of 37 years on this earth have I seen a Latin artist at the inauguration performing. And so I was like, this representation is, although performative and only visual, I was like, that's kind of cool.
Okay. Yeah.
But no longer shall we speak of J-Lo and her trespasses against us.
Oh my God. I feel like every time I'm on, there's always this one thing that just sticks. If J-Lo
Absolutely.
sticks this time.
Pogo Pock is anti-J-Lo, so.
Oh my God, no! Oh my God, I'm gonna get canceled.
The war on Christmas. We're abolishing the military and the police state, and now we're trying to get rid of Jenny from the block.
Well, you have to have something like for the other 11 months out of the year to be trying to cancel and try to hate on. You only have Christmas for that short period of time, so you have to have something else. So we have Christmas for a short period of time, then the rest of the year is J-Lo.
All right, Vega, did you have any other thoughts on the inauguration, what you saw or anything?
No, the other thing was just I honestly, in the back of my head, was kind of like watching in case something happened. So I wanted to make sure I was paying attention for that. But other than that, it's more of the same. Like if I put on my American citizen hat, you know, it was refreshing to see somebody who was competent up there. Now take it off, it's Biden. So we'll see. I mean, I'm glad he got straight to work. And no bullshitting. And that's what he's going to need to do. And we're just going to have to keep our foot on his neck for the next 4 years.
Yeah. That's going to be the hard part. Beacon, what were your thoughts as you were watching the inauguration and everything that came with it?
So I'm going to try to not be entirely cynical about the entire experience. One thing that was very noticeable is that the whole, they made a big deal about Trump breaking traditions throughout his presidency up until the last minute of not showing up for Biden's inauguration, right? But in a way that actually worked out in Biden's favor because you didn't have news media, newscasters, all that, spending the entire day talking about Trump, right? They ended up talking mostly about Biden because he physically wasn't there, but also his presence as a persona wasn't there either, right? And I think a big part of that was, of course, that he's no longer on Twitter and has been pretty much deplatformed everywhere. So you didn't have any of the newscasters being like, okay, we're going to break away from Biden's speech to share with you this tweet that Trump said about Biden. You didn't have that kind of thing. So it was nice to not have everyone's focus be on Trump the entire time and to let other things in the world happen on a given day, so that part was very nice and very refreshing. We'll see how long that lasts because I don't doubt that he's going to find a way to insert himself back into American politics as quickly as possible. But for the respite we have, let's enjoy it. The other thing is that, I will hate on Kamala as much as the next person, but what she represented as her identities, not herself as a person, but her identities as a woman, as a Black woman, as the South Asian woman, becoming vice president and holding the highest office that a woman has held at this point in time in American history, that in and of itself was significant. And I had some emotions and whatever things happen inside of my body when I saw her take office, because it was actually legitimately cool and special and unique. And, we've had the privilege of being able to watch two people of color become president and vice president in our lifetimes in the past 20 years. That being said, I would have rather have had other people of color and a woman have another woman, but at least it did happen, right? So that ceiling has been broken, and hopefully better people that are along those identities will come along and take office at some point in time in the future, right? So that's my hope for the future.
Yeah.
But at least in that moment, it was still really, really cool, and really, really special. And as I said, like I legitimately did like a smile across my face because it is a very cool thing that it happened. Um, it's ridiculous that it's taken this long for a woman to become vice president or even president, right? But it is pretty cool that it happened. And of course, the added bonus is that Biden is probably not going to survive the next 4 years. So we're looking at the first female president. So that's what she's counting on, first of all.
You know,
She
you're
was just
not
like,
wrong.
trip down those stairs, trip down those stairs, trip and fall. I know you're not going to survive. She's waiting. She's waiting.
She was probably thinking in her head, like, I hope you have to catch a bus to heaven and they tell you not to get on.
Just stay outside in the cold as long as possible. Catch a cold and you're gone.
We're going to talk about political memes later when we talk about Bernie, but I feel like you're absolutely right. And I do want to talk about this moment because I do think that it was important. I think that a lot of times people, especially people that are very progressive and actually very liberal and like on the forefront of the movement and want to hold accountability to like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because of the record that they have in like attacking marginalized groups. And I think that is important and that is still at the forefront. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that's still absolutely at the forefront. But I do want to acknowledge that there was something emotionally special about seeing this person that like visually represents and like culturally represents and like all sorts of other things represent so many different things that like I can identify and resonate with that like I've never ever seen before in my life. And just like Barack Obama, who was like, a whole other slew of things. And although again there was still accountability and like who he was and his track record and like the policy that he enacted in his 8 years and the stuff he didn't do in his 8 years, there was something special about seeing him being inaugurated and elected president of the United States. And so that it was, I think, a really special moment. Like Greg and I definitely talked about it. So Beacon shared their thoughts. Who else? Does anybody else have thoughts? Greg, do you have thoughts on seeing Kamala Harris?
So no, very similar to what you guys have already said is that I think that it was important to see her for what she represents, but also have that sinking feeling in the back of your head that it's her based on her past and her experience, and stuff like that. But people do grow, and so my hope is that she has grown from cop Kamala, and so it was good to see. I mean, it was good to see her standing up there. It was really, really good, and I think and that's what I kept trying to express. That despite their politics, it was really good to see her up there with everything, and so it'll be interesting to watch the next 4 years how it plays out.
Yeah. To Greg's point about people changing, I think that people change and also politics and the moment in politics change as well, right? Like Obama, he probably was for gay marriage before he ran for president the first time, but he didn't say he was, and then his position evolved, right? So let's hope that maybe Kamala genuinely does have more progressive policies, that it's not quote unquote safe, to espouse at this moment, or that the party finally listens to its base and actually does move more progressive over the next 4 years. So like if we have to like drag a politician kicking and screaming to a progressive viewpoint, I'm okay with that as long as it ends with, universal health coverage or something like that, right? And unfortunately, that's kind of the position that a lot of us as progressives or leftists are in, is that we don't have a party that fully is aligned with what our beliefs are and our positions are. And unfortunately, you kind of have to force them into those positions. And if we're successful, great. But ultimately, that is what Republicans do all the time, right? They kind of push their politicians more towards the right in the way that they want to. So it's the you don't want to date someone with the intention of change, like with the expectation of being able to change them to be suited for what your needs are in a relationship. It's the opposite of that in politics. Like, you can't actually kind of force that change to happen. So we'll see if that happens with Kamala.
They good? Do you have
I
any
think we're
thought?
going to be stuck with her 4 years from now.
Oh man, I also have that fear that that Kamala is going to be the presumptive nominee for the DNC, because I don't think that Joe's going to go for a second term. I don't think he can. I also agree with you. I don't think he might. He might not survive 4 years. Vega, thoughts on seeing Kamala Harris, a woman, all the different components that make Kamala who she is?
I honestly, on a personal note, I spent some time kind of struggling with myself, kind of asking the question, why can't I just be appreciative of the moment, and appreciative of what it is that this means. And I'm not going to say that I have the answer to that right now, because of course I want to celebrate the fact that this is a monumental moment for seeing someone who is closer to who's representative of where we come from. And of course, it's that phrase of, I want to root for everyone black, but then I just think about all the things that she's done, and then I start thinking about the fact how this is being often used as a way to, I don't know, signal some sort of progress to Democrats to be like, see, look what we have done. In the last 20 years, we've had Barack Obama and Kamala Harris. We are truly progressing this nation. And it just frustrates me, because even the idea of Kamala having been chosen as the vice president pick was a calculated move in order to capitalize on people's emotions to want to see that happen. So it's just at face value, I want to be happy for this, and it is such a huge moment. But I can't help the feeling that I can see through the facade, and everything that's behind it is really fucked up. There was, I'm forgetting his name, Lloyd something, who was just sworn in as the Department of Defense Secretary. And he's black. And it's just everyone's this is the first time a black man's been in this position. And I'm yeah, the position to be in charge of the people that go to other countries, bombing other black and brown folks, and, continuing the regime of the U.S. empire. So I don't know, honestly, how to reconcile wanting to feel proud and having the knowledge of what actually is going on in the background. So that's something that I've been struggling with.
Yeah. Well, I think there's also this conversation, right, that there are a lot of POC folk that have been in these lower rank positions all over government, all over everything really, and they've been living this code switch life a lot, right? And a lot of them are in the military, and they entered the military for whatever reason they entered, and they've been there this whole time, and they've learned how to acclimate and navigate those realms, and they often get lost in the sauce of U.S. government or the U.S. military, and then they'll end up in these places of or positions of power, but they they probably struggle with identifying that their role is actually really harmful and that they are like this POC person that embodies many of the things that they are out to destroy in the name of the US government. And so I think that for me, I had those struggles too. I'm like, this is a career military person. He probably has some story that like I'm sure will be shared about like growing up and like working hard and all that stuff that a lot of people will be able to resonate and identify with. But this person probably got lost in like all of that. Like, I mean, it's like this government will churn people out, and like a lot of people go in and they think they're these idealistic people that are going to turn things around from the inside, and then they end up on the other end.
Yeah.
Like,
So
go ahead.
That's a big thing too. It's something I've noticed just on a broader spectrum of like just people's politics. You have on one side the people that believe that the answer to the solution is to work within the system, and then you have the other side, which is the system is not working, tear it all down and start all over again. And so a lot of the people that get into these positions are working from that perspective of, if I can make a difference in here, I can make a change. And that's how we end up losing so many people over the years that just start turning on their own people, just slowly, because it's such an insular community in there. And the way the system is designed is to make it so that you get exhausted from trying to change it and just give in to what everybody else is doing.
Yep.
So
there's also programming and conditioning that happens early on, right? In our educational system, like you get taught, you go to college, like a lot of times military, any branch of the military will target high schools and communities of color to get them to sign up. They'll entice you with this, like, we'll pay for college, like travel the world, all those fucking nonsense, like bullshit and gear that they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on to try to get young kids to sign up. But I was having this conversation with somebody over the weekend. Like, I was part of one of those young people that had that programming. Like, I was like ingrained in my head. It was like, Freddie, you're going to become a lawyer. You're going to become a prosecutor, and you're going to put bad people in jail because that's how you're going to save the world. And then I got through college and I did a year of service in AmeriCorps, and that completely like it just like changed my perspective, and it made me realize that like being part of the prison industrial complex was not what I wanted to do, and that I would actually be hurting my community instead of like saving the world. But I really thought that I would be saving the world by becoming a lawyer and becoming a prosecutor and putting bad people in jail. I literally thought that was like the path to me saving the world, and that's not real. But like they romanticize, TV shows, teachers romanticize like the justice system and how it works, and in the end a lot of folks just end up becoming part of the toxic, unhealthy systems that fuck over our very own people. So that's very real. So that was the inauguration. A lot happened. There was a lot of feelings. There was a lot of shit to talk. Garth Brooks, y'all. I still can't get over that Garth Brooks was there.
Oh, I keep forgetting that he was there.
Yeah, it was a weird experience. I don't know if this is right, but somebody was saying that he has sang at every inauguration since Reagan. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't know if that was when Greg and I were texting. We're like, here he is sending a little bones, all of the MAGA hat wearers, by having Garth come on and sing. But who knows? So let's jump right into it. The inauguration happened. It was a little bit of pomp and circumstance, and then at the end of the night, or in the middle of the night, Joe Biden started jumping into it by signing executive orders, and to date he has signed about 30 of them, and they range anywhere from mask mandates on any federal property, coronavirus aid, setting out guidelines to reopen schools. There's a whole slew of executive orders that he has started out signing. Some of them are to overturn the Trump executive orders that Trump had issued, like the 1776 commission, like they took that down almost immediately. The census, where Donald Trump was trying to not count non-citizens on immigration. He reversed the Trump administration's restrictions on the U.S. entry, also known as the Muslim ban. So there was a series of executive orders that that Joe Biden got started with. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Give him at least a month, Freddie, before you start calling him Trump. But I want to get folks' thoughts. Executive orders only have so much power. In some instances, they do actually they have impact on actual policy and decision making right away. In other instances, they're very performative, and it's just like this is what I want to happen, and this is the beginning point of it happening, but a whole bunch of other steps have to happen before we actually get to the point of change. But I wanted to get folks' thoughts on executive orders. Where do you all think this is? He also has started these talks of the $1.9 trillion dollar package that he wants to do for COVID relief. And he is signaling that he wants to work with both sides of the aisle. So that's where we are right now. Biden 30 to date. As of this morning, I believe there was 30. So between this morning and now, he may have signed others. But any thoughts on where we stand right now? Vega, we can start with you on what you think Joe Biden in his first, day 4 of office, and his executive orders. How you feel he's rolling out?
Actually, I think he's doing good. I think that Donald Trump's presidency really highlighted the damage that the president can do, right? Because before him, there wasn't really executive order was just something mostly done just kind of like as a show of force more than anything. But to be putting down these mandates within the first few days of him being in office, it goes well. It shows that he meant what he said, that he wants to start working. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think presidents should be doing it more often, especially as it pertains to kind of keeping the promises that they made during the campaign. I mean, I don't think Biden's going to be pushing an executive order on Medicare for all anytime soon, but I think that it is good to see that he's already getting the ball rolling, because we're dealing with a lot of things right now that need immediate attention. So,
Greg, what are your thoughts on the executive orders and so far Biden's first few days in office?
I think a lot of they've all been good. I think it's anticipated that he's going to sign 1 or 2 a day for the next week or two. I think it highlights how broken that system is, and this dance that we do every 4 years, and that how Trump just upended it with all of these ridiculous ones that he. So now Biden comes in and has to undo them with his executive orders, in hopes that the White House does not flip in 4 years and a Republican walks in, and then there's another slew of them that just overturns the ones that Biden just did. And I think that it also highlights the importance of legislative action, and making sure that, so yes, you're doing these things in the executive order and stuff like that, but let's try to move as much of these things into legislative priorities, and so that they become laws and stuff like that, so that we're not seeing this flip-flop every couple of years. So yeah,
and that's what people are saying. They're saying that executive orders have a larger opportunity for legal challenges to come up and for them to actually stick, because you made a great point, Greg, is Joe Biden can sign 100 executive orders, and on day one in 2024, whoever is elected the next president of the U.S. can come in and be like, sign, 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 much like Biden did.
Yep.
He came in and he signed a bunch of executive orders to undo a lot of Trump's executive orders, and there are a lot of executive orders of Trump's that are in litigation right now, and so they do open you up for like they're like a temporary relief for something that might come in the future. Beacon, where are you at with the executive orders in Biden's first few days?
Yeah, I mean, y'all have kind of talked through it all. The executive orders are dangerous, not in the sense of like, oh, they can do bad. It's more in that they're vulnerable, but also, it's very annoying, this pattern that we're in, because Trump issued a lot of executive orders that were to override what Obama did. And so now Biden is doing executive order override what Trump did. So it's just this it's this feeling that we're not actually moving forward. Now, I'm not saying that the executive orders that he did weren't good things. They all something that long-term protections, right? Whether it's long-term protections for DACA recipients, so that in 4 years it doesn't get switched back. It's staying in the Paris Climate Accords. All these different things. Like, there needs to be, as you all said, the legislative support to actually enshrine these things into law to make it a lot more difficult for us to turn back. The thing that I'm looking for, I'm actually looking more at Congress than I am at Biden, because Biden is going to do his executive orders. That's fine. But you've got the Senate and the House that are both in Democratic control. They have a lot that they can get done in 2 years, and I'm extremely nervous that they're not going to do enough. We've already, we've gone on numerous times about, and I know I have that. It's just that I just don't trust them to do the things that they need to do to actually help the generations behind them, right? They're not being affected personally by any bill that's going to pass the Senate or the House, right? I think I sent it to Freddie and Vega that I was curious about the current sitting senators, about who is eligible for a vaccine in terms of like 65 years or older. I think it's 55 plus senators are 65 years or older. Like, not trying to go on an ageist rant here, but maybe we should have a little bit more diversity in experience and backgrounds, so that we can actually have people that are going to push forward legislation that would actually benefit more people than just rich people, right? So, rambling a little bit, but it's going to be Congress that we're having to pay a lot of attention to over the next 2 years, and hope that they actually do something worthwhile. As long as Biden does his executive order thing and like doesn't get on Twitter, he's fine. Let's just leave him alone and focus on Pelosi and Schumer to actually do something, because odds are they're going to lose the House in 2 years, or they're going to lose for sure they're going to lose the Senate in 2 years, right? So they need to get a lot of shit done between now and 2 years from now.
Yeah, plot twist that Biden gets on Twitter
real quick,
and becomes the new Trump.
Oh God, hell no. No, one of the things that are on the table right now is debating on whether or not to get rid of the filibuster. And if they are successful in getting rid of the filibuster, there is more work that can be done in Congress. Whereas with the filibuster still staying in work, the thing about the filibuster is that it's a weapon that can be used by both sides. It's beneficial when it's being used for people, and it's really harmful when it's used against people. So getting rid of it altogether might just make it a bit easier to have more direct action that'll affect the constituency more so than taking forever just to check in with the lobbyists to see what they think and find out of ways to kind of strike it down. I think that would be a good first move of this new Congress. One shows that they mean it when they say that they want to get to work, and two, it'll really take out a lot of the Republicans' stopping power from preventing a lot of bills even being discussed on the floor.
Yeah, and so the filibuster, right, requires 60 members to end debate on most topics. So that's what the filibuster is for folks that don't know what it is. And yes, it's something that's up on the table right now as the Senate switches control over to the Democrats. And Mitch McConnell has stated that the Republicans want a promise that the Democrats aren't going to remove it. And so, which is, without it, the Democrats would have to get 10.
The audacity of that, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. They are like, yeah, we've been bullying you around for the past, how long has the Senate been in Republican hands? Like, a long time. It's been a long time. And they're like, we know we've been bullying you.
Obama's first term.
Yeah, see, that's a long time. And so they're like, we've been bullying you around this whole time, and now these are the terms and conditions for our surrender. and it's not even a real surrender. But yeah, they definitely have the gall of the Republicans to be like, listen, we need you all to promise in order for us to move forward. And it will impact a lot of different things. Go ahead, Beacon.
Oh, I was just going to say they have the gall because they know they can actually make it happen, because they know that Democrats are just going to fold and roll over at the slightest amount of confrontation. Democrats have no chance of getting Republicans to hit that 10 to get 10 senators to switch over, right? But if the situation was reversed, Republicans could count on 10 Democrats voting for whatever they wanted to vote on pretty much 9 times out of 10. Because that's Democrats playing the good guy or whatever, right? They just fold every single fucking time. So, make it an even playing field. Yes, the Republicans are going to use it for evil, but they're using everything in politics for evil. So, it's if they're wanting to... if they're worried about getting rid of the filibuster and it gives them this one thing of ammunition for them to do their agenda, they already have this huge stockpile of things that they could do to negatively affect people across the country. In terms of a national politics standpoint, sure, but you've got how many Republican governors across the country? You have how many state legislators that are in Republican control across the country? Those are the ones that are really doing some fucking damage, right? Yeah. So you're worried about the fucking filibuster in Senate? Pay more attention to all the different state races and the governorships that, they're really, really fucking people over.
Yeah.
Sorry, went on a rant.
Yeah, that's okay. I think I agree with you.
No, that's fine.
It's now the real attention that has to be paid is going to be to the Congress, to the House, and to the Senate to see what actual legislative moves they can actually get through. And this filibuster is the start, right? This is the very beginning. If the Democrats can't hold a strong hand right now, to use poker terms, if they can't hold the strong hand that they have right now, then they're just gonna get pushed around for the next 4 years, and shit's gonna get done. Yeah, Vega, were you gonna say something?
The structure of the Senate,
Greg.
The structure of the Senate has continuously deteriorated, and I think that the filibuster is this last leg that's standing, and they're like, no, don't pull this leg from under the chair. However, we've watched you all pull the other 3 legs.
Yeah.
And so there's no real reason not to get rid of this 4th leg. Yeah, exactly. And so they're the Senate is supposed to be this deliberative body, different from the House and stuff like that. But again, you all have you've wielded your power in such evil ways. For example, if we're looking at how they built the Supreme Court seats, as an example, you all rushed through that because you had the power to do that. There's not a real reason for the Democrats not to get rid of the filibuster. Like, it is what it is at this point. You know, it doesn't serve a real purpose, and it hinders a lot of work. But it is the last leg, and so you might as well kick the last leg from under the chair.
What's funny to me is that, like, now the Republicans are like, we would like to return to the former days of the glorious Senate and how we used to operate and be bipartisan. Now that they've had like 14 years of like bullying the Democrats, they're like, we'd like to return to olden times.
Because that's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, what's even more annoying is the fact that, like, the filibuster was something that was created, like, at least 100 years after the Constitution was passed. So it's not like this is some sort of, like, tradition. Y'all made it, and if I'm not mistaken, it was made right after right around the time of Reconstruction, which would make it a thing that you made up just so that Black people couldn't have more power in politics.
Yeah.
So, like...
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Also, I don't know why I keep breaking into this old timey voice that I've been doing all night. But I don't know why that keeps happening.
Have you been watching WandaVision?
I haven't been watching anything. I don't know where it's come from.
Okay.
It's
because I know a lot of people have been talking like that.
It's the voice that they use. It's the voice that the gentleman reserves his time.
You're right.
Like, okay.
That's what it is. The gentleman reserves their time. This just goes to show you I've been watching too much C-SPAN because I don't know where this weird shit with my voice is coming out. All right, before we move into COVID-19, I do want to talk briefly about the impeachment of Donald Trump. So on Monday, the House is going to send the one article of impeachment over to the Senate. The Senate has already decided in worked terms with Mitch McConnell that they won't start the actual trial until February 8th, I believe. But all signs point to no. So far, the growing number of Republican senators that say that they don't want this to happen is a lot, and they won't get the 17 threshold that they need on the Republican side. Right now, only 3 Republican senators that I know of have expressed that they are keeping the option open to impeach Trump, and that's Murkowski, Romney, and McConnell. And those are, 3 very big ifs. And so I just want to quickly talk about, because if this impeachment doesn't go anywhere, and I know some Senate Republicans are also trying to find ways in which they can stop the impeachment trial from actually happening by saying that you can't impeach a president that's not an actual sitting president. So all sorts of tactics are already happening, but from what I have observed, all signs are pointing to no. It's not going to happen. Does anybody have thoughts on this ridiculous sham of an impeachment that's coming up? Vega?
Yeah. So here's the thing. At least for me, the only way that I can see this coming through is if somehow Trump's image becomes so tainted that the only way for the Republican Party to survive is to throw him under the bus. So, I mean, considering what we've seen Trump do and what he's capable of, it's entirely possible. But as things stand right now, it's not going to pass. Granted, again, that would mean that they would have to be, on the record saying no to impeaching a president who incited, a riot and an insurrection. Which could look bad on them in the future. And if they're thinking about their futures, that is one of the possibilities that they're looking at as well, in terms of whether they or not, where they come out on the side of this. So, not to mention that there are still some Democrats that are not 100% on board with this either. I mean, Joe Manchin.
Gosh.
Yeah, anyways. But ultimately... I don't see this going too far. I do think that during the deliberation, we're going to see some interesting antics from some of the senators, and I'd love to see that, because this could dig the grave of a lot of Senate Republicans, depending on how they play this. Like, I'm looking at Ted Cruz, I'm looking at Hawley. What's the other one? There was another senator. I can't remember.
No, not Coons.
But them two in particular. Um, ah,
Thune? Is it Thune?
who?
Rubio.
Rubio. Eh, I, it'll come back to me at some point. Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham.
Oh yes.
Um,
How could we forget about the Graham?
I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see how in those three different examples this thing is going to play out, because with Lindsey Graham already turning, Ted Cruz being on the verge of getting kicked out, with more and more people every day calling for his resignation, and Hawley just being a Trump shill, I would be interested to see how they play this out, and if they continue on course, and how this affects their future.
Yeah.
But if we're asking the question on whether or not this impeachment is going to go through, if the first one didn't go, this one's not going to go in either.
Yeah. Greg, do you have any thoughts on the impeachment? Or go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say that if the riots, insurrection, terrorist attack on the Capitol, whatever, if that had happened like a year prior, or maybe even 6 months prior, maybe the impeachment would have gone through. But I think that a lot of people a lot of the Republican senators are taking advantage of, like, well, he's out of office, so why even bother? That kind of thing. And also, like, frankly, if the Capitol Hill police that weren't really doing their jobs, if they did their jobs like a little bit less, and one of the members in Congress was murdered, then an impeachment probably would have succeeded. Like, they say that they're all about the cops, but they don't really care about the cop being murdered. But if one of them got murdered, then they would actually do something, because they do care about their own skin. They don't care about anyone else's. But they do care about their own skin.
You know what's interesting? I read an article yesterday. There is a husband whose wife is a Capitol Police officer, and, talked about how his wife went to work that day and it was like her 1700th day of protecting the Capitol. And then he was like, and my mom was outside and was part of the mob that like broke into the Capitol. And I was like, what a weird ass place to be as the husband of the wife of a cop who was protecting the Capitol while your mom is outside trying to break in. That is fucking bananas. Sorry. It just reminded me that this is the kind of crazy shit that's happening in our country right now. Greg, do you have any thoughts on this impeachment nonsense?
I don't believe that he'll be convicted. I don't believe that enough Republicans are going to switch over. I think part of that is that their memory isn't that long, just to be honest with you. And most of them aren't up for re-election for another either 2 years or 4 years from now. And so they don't have a lot to gain from doing it. And they probably calculated that they do have some to lose, and some of that to lose is that white supremacist vote that they get. And so they're probably they're going to make a really calculated decision not to vote for conviction. They're probably going to use that, well, he is out of office, and he didn't organize all of this other stuff. Oh, it's also coming out that his campaign actually financed that rally and stuff. Like, there was this backdoor channel of paying the people who paid for the permits and stuff like that. I just read about that earlier today. But back to that, I don't think a lot of the Republican senators are going to cross over. They protect their own. And they're probably looking at elections that are 2 to 4 years out from today, and so they're probably like, whatever hit that I'll take for not convicting him, we'll make that up.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's going to be a lot. Well, I'm interested, I guess. I don't know that it's. I feel like 99.9% of me says nothing's going to happen. What I am interested in seeing, though, is what what kind of punches the Democrats might pull out, because there is that information that's coming about the Save America rally nonsense, where he like had high level like campaign operatives that got paid thousands of dollars right before they switched on in and started organizing the rally. And then there is also reports coming out that he did try to remove the acting attorney general to place someone in there to get the election results overturned in Georgia. So there's all sorts of little snippets coming out. I think that it will make it a little salacious and juicy and worth watching. But the end result, I unfortunately think that Trump will not get convicted. I will eat my words if we are here at the end of February with a convicted Donald Trump as, actually impeached.
I think there is one other aspect to this story that could really change how this plays out. Depending on how far the FBI investigation goes into determining how many members of Congress were actually involved in this as well, because that could really, if something like that were to come out during these proceedings, that might motivate a lot of them to just say to vote for it, to put as much distance from Trump and the people who supported him as possible.
Yeah,
because
that's a really good point.
As far as we've heard so far from those reporting, there are strong indications that there were a number of Congress people that were involved in this planning. So
yeah. That is a really good point. There is reports coming out that saying that Congress people were involved in the planning, and there was one Congress person that was even giving tours to large groups of folks, and it felt like it was reconnaissance missions. So yeah, I please prove all of us wrong and have an impeach Trump in February. I just don't feel that it's gonna happen. Okay. That's the inauguration.
Convicted,
that's
because
Trump.
he's already impeached.
Oh, yes, convicted. A convicted Donald Trump. Stripped of every single thing that he could possibly get. So I wanted to talk about COVID-19. And again, I know that we've talked about this extensively here before, but I do want to talk about the thresholds that the U.S. has hit. And they're not good thresholds. Right now, the U.S. has over 400,000 deaths, and this weekend it has hit 23 million plus cases of COVID-19. And right now, there's also this variant that's super contagious that's hitting the U.S. as well, and experts are saying that it's going to cause another surge right at the time where a bunch of local governments are starting to relax COVID restrictions and allowing indoor dining and bars to reopen, including here in Chicago. And so I wanted to talk about two things. Vaccination efforts are ramping up, but they feel like they're moving really slow, and they feel like they're a hot ass mess. I think Illinois is getting 126,000 vaccinations a week, and I think there's like 11 million people maybe in Illinois, something like that. And so it just feels like they're trying to churn them out. And I'm also getting reports Greg shared earlier this week that there are people that will hang out outside of vaccination centers because at the end of the day, if they have a bunch of vaccines that appointments didn't show up or people didn't come and get them, that they'll hope to get in and get vaccinated. So I think it's causing all sorts of chaos and all sorts of craziness. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I know that we've talked about it extensively. I'm ready, like as soon as this vaccination is available and I can get in a line somewhere to get it, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get the second dose. I'm ready, but I wanted to talk about where folks are at with COVID-19. I know that all of us have a little bit of a different experience, and we all have all sorts of different COVID panic that we experience all the time. This past week, I will share personally, I had a big COVID scare in which it seemed like the entirety of my family had gotten COVID-19, but it turns out my dad got a false positive. But that little blurb alone, like I was setting myself up to prepare for some really worst case scenarios because my dad and my mom live together, and my brother, who is also like has pre-existing conditions, lives in the same households as them. They have a pod that they've created with my older brothers where their kids go there, and so like they're all there together, and I'm like, everyone potentially could have gotten exposed to it and could have it. And so it's right at the same time that the U.S. is hitting its 400,000 milestone. I don't know if I call it a milestone. This 400,000 number, this grim number, and these 23 million cases in the U.S. alone. And so I just want to talk about where people are at. Or people are ready to get vaccinated. I know Vega has a very specific experience as well. So we can start with you, Vega. Where are you at with COVID-19? How are you feeling? You know, are you still pushing? Well, I don't know that we have a quirky one-liner for you in COVID-19 yet, but maybe today will be the day. But where are you at with COVID-19?
No. Oh God, no! Don't put that on me. Well, actually, tomorrow I'm getting my first vaccine, so I'm looking forward to that.
Hold on, this new program allows me to do this really cool thing, and let's see if it works. That was weird.
Oh my God! I feel like I'm in front of a live studio.
That's
audience.
right. That's right. There's some other ones in here, so if you want, we can just.
Oh my God!
If y'all have any requests for sound effects while you're speaking, just let me know. But go ahead, tell us. You're about to get your first dose.
After talking about reaching this milestone. Yeah, no. So COVID. We hit that number. Most likely, that's the post-Christmas and New Year's numbers. We're starting to get them in right now. I don't know if this was part of one of the executive orders that Biden passed, but I know he was talking about the federal mask mandate. I know it's only on federal ground, and there's talks about expanding it now, which hopefully it comes through, because I do think that we've been needed a federal response to this, because leading it up to the states, clearly there's some states that don't care about the science and will put all of their citizens at risk just because it looks politically advantageous to them. So if we can have a federal mandate of some kind, having some sort of a lockdown and a plan to kind of like catch up on the vaccine numbers, because I know that's one of the things too. Like here in New York, we're running dangerously low on vaccines, to the point where I might not even get my vaccine tomorrow. But that again comes from the lack of planning. So hopefully Biden continues his fast action to kind of like put into motion these things to help us combat this, because it's only going to get worse. The new strain, thankfully, seems to be like the vaccine seems to be working positively towards that strain. So at least we know that the vaccine will work towards it as well. But that doesn't change the fact that it's still a very contagious form. So we are going to be seeing more numbers, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the longer that we don't have a plan in place to help people, to pay people to stay at home, then I don't know. This is gonna be going on for much longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's really real, right? We, as you know, as a person that's not in all of the categories of people that would get vaccinated first, I knew that I would have to wait a while. But I'm very happy to see that people that are across the range and spectrum of a bunch of different identities like are getting vaccinated. I saw these like really beautiful TikToks of these older like Mexican like abuelos like and abuelitas getting vaccinated, and this person was like sharing it to encourage like the Latinx community to go and get vaccinated. I think that that's important to continue seeing it. And I think it's also important to continue holding the conversations. I know that I myself have had some really hard conversations with people that I love that were like, I'm not getting vaccinated. I don't know what's in that. Like, you know, it's going to do all sorts of crazy things to me. And had to have the hard conversation about like, here's the data, here's the science, here's why it would be important to do this. And I think that having those conversations, having those visualizations of seeing people getting vaccinated, sharing it, allowing people to ask you questions if you want to and you're so inclined. I think all of those things are important to see because it's not we're not. It's not like we're about to start getting better, maybe because of the Biden administration changes that he's going to implement, but we won't see that for a while. And Dr. Fauci said that if we don't
Yeah, we're
get
not.
folks vaccinated by like mid to end of the summer, that like we're gonna start looking into a grim rest of 2021. You're gonna say something,
Yeah,
Vega?
and real quick, yeah. So one of the reasons why I'm doing it is because, well, thankfully my mom is not an anti-vaxxer, but she is skeptical of vaccines, as is most of my family, as as many elders as I know. In fact, at work, I was having the conversation with an elder that I'm close to at work, and she's an older Black woman, and she was like, "Listen, I've seen these things happen again and again and again. I do not want to risk it." Not to mention the fact that she has pre-existing conditions as well. So she's, rightfully suspicious of this. And I'm not going to tell them that it's unfounded. I mean, like, the science, of course, supports the vaccine, but the reality of these kinds of situations, like, always negatively affect Black and brown folks. So it is a risk. Like, I feel like there's a double, like, there's twice the miseducation for white folks. You have the chips and the syringes or whatever, but then for Black and brown folks, it's just pointing to all the examples in the past that our people have been given syphilis or been sterilized or anything like that, just for the sake of experiments. It, it I don't. So the reason why I bring all of that up is because I'm choosing to do the vaccine beyond even my own personal fear of it, because if I can come out of this on the other side of this fine, then hopefully that'll give the okay to some people close to me in my life to decide whether or not they want to go for it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. What encourages me, I think, is that my parents are ready. They're ready. My parents are both in their 70s. They both have pre-existing conditions. And they are like, where is the line? Find me the line. I will wait in it for 3 hours. Like, I'm ready to be in line. Give me the shot. I want the shot. And I think it's because they understand. They want to see the people that they love, and they want to survive for the people that they love. And I think it is important what you said, Vega. I think it's important to acknowledge that the government has, in many instances, fucked over communities of color through experimentation to like gain medical advances, and like a lot of time just leave those communities of colors abandoned, but gain all of this like medical soundness that they go and use on other communities, or that they'll like charge lots of money to like get treatment for. I think it is important to acknowledge that, because that is a legitimate part of the reason why these communities have this fear of this vaccine. I think that is important to acknowledge that. And I also think that like it's important to acknowledge that there are going to be people that don't get the vaccine, and that you can do your best to talk to them. You can do your best to model for them. But ultimately, it is going to be their decision, and we can't make it for them, right? Greg, Beacon, thoughts on COVID-19, where you all are at with everything?
I am so I've been in a vaccine study, but I've also have had the ability to get the Pfizer vaccine for the last 3 weeks. But because I'm in a study for another vaccine, part of me wanted to continue to help contribute to the body of knowledge that we have about vaccines. So I'm like, I'm going to stay in the trial. But with these new variants that we're seeing arriving, that are far more contagious and more deadly, I've decided that this week I'm going to unblind from the trial, because in fact I don't know if I was even giving the actual trial vaccine or placebo. So this week I am going to unblind from the study so that they'll tell me what I was given. But then we'll also follow that up to see if I've even developed it. So if I was given the vaccine, if I developed antibodies from it. But then if I was given the placebo, I'm definitely going to get my Pfizer vaccine this week. Just so that, because I think the other part of me is like, for the last 12 months or so, I've been doing perfect. I've been doing fine, as long as I continue to follow the protocols and stuff like that. But, it does concern me, these variants that are arriving and stuff like that. So I'm like, and because I also have, these pre-existing conditions already. So I'm like, I don't want to, put myself at any more risk than I unnecessarily need to. And so I am fully prepared to take it. I don't have any reservations. Obviously I don't have reservations about the vaccine at the point that I'm taking some experimental one that I don't even know what it is. But, I also had to have these hard conversations with family members because my brother and his family, they're not interested in the vaccine. But I think it's going to take us just having like some ongoing conversations and dispelling some myths that they have about it. And so one of them that I heard was, and this is what my sister-in-law said, was that they came out with it too soon. And so I really had to break down that that's not really true. Like how it looks that way. But the reality is that, they've been working on a very similar one for so long, so that they really had a structure to begin with. And because so many people were focused on developing one and so much energy and so many resources went into developing it, that's why they were able to move so quickly. So it does feel like they came out with it soon. It's just not the reality of it. And so hopefully, through like continue to have these conversations and, dispelling myths that they already have and stuff like that, we could get them, more comfortable with taking the vaccine. So
Yeah.
we shall see.
Yeah, I think it's hard when you have folks that you love that have like really strong opinions. And I think that's why one of the things that I feel that they're doing a really bad job at is like having really good like visual or audio or like all sorts of communication in multiple languages about the vaccine. And like I can speak for like Mexican Latinx communities, that's gonna mean having like some Mexican celebrity or telenovela star or one of the radio personalities or one of the TV personalities like either getting vaccinated or talking about the vaccine and like why or what the science behind it, to effectively communicate about it. Because right now CDPH is like has stuff out, but it's like on social media, and like a lot of older Latinx folks are not on social media. And then if they are, they're not really following the CDPH here in Chicago or the IDPH in Illinois. And so like really strong marketing communication, like plans need to be out there to really educate and inform all of the communities. Beacon, what are your thoughts? Where are you at with COVID and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I have a somewhat of a similar experience to Greg, that my mom has been very resistant to the idea of taking the vaccine. And it's the same thing, not feeling like it's been tested enough or vetted enough. And my older brother and I have had to kind of gang up on her and kind of bully her into taking the vaccine because, she's vulnerable. She has a lot of pre-existing conditions that could mean really bad things if she got COVID. Same with my dad as well. Frankly, my entire family all of us have pre-existing conditions. We do not have the best genes on the planet. And so it's important for all of us when able to take the vaccine. My sister-in-law, she works in education. She's a teacher. So I think that she's earlier in the tier schedule to get the vaccine, which is good. Duke, my fiance, and I both work in the construction industry, so I think that we might be further ahead in getting access to the vaccine. And then both my parents are older than 65, which in California it's been opened up to 65 and older. So we're watching the access to be able to get the vaccine, but as of right now, like you can go on the county website where they live in, there's this long list of available vaccine sites, and it all says full, 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 full. So, I hope that they're able to get an appointment soon so that they can get a vaccine because, realistically, like it's going to be February next week, and we're that's going to be month 11. Like it's I I want to be able to hug my family again. I want to be able to hug my friends again. I am very eager for us to be able to start getting the vaccines, and I do not believe that everything's going to automatically go back to normal. I think that we're still going to have to be wearing our masks for a long time, and all the dummies that don't want to get the vaccine, come winter next year or later on this year, there are going to be spikes again. There's going to be spikes again around the holidays and stuff. So it's not going away automatically just because the vaccine is out now. But but most importantly is the administration, pushing whatever kind of button they have to push to get more vaccines manufactured and distributed across the country, and for the states and counties and whoever is responsible to do a good enough job to actually get them distributed to those who are able to administer the vaccine. So you don't have any vaccines that are just sitting around collecting dust. So I hope that Biden and his administration are able to make that happen. There was a bit of a discourse on Twitter about, as pretty much day one that he becomes president, people are going to be like, 400,000 people are dead. Why aren't you doing enough about COVID? Right. And then the response to that was like, well, it's day one, give him some time. But someone did point out, and I agree, that this is what he was elected for. Right. Sure, a lot of people are unhappy about Trump, blah, blah, blah. But like, this is one of the reasons why he got elected, because he said he had a plan to make things happen and quickly, that he was going to be able to do a better job than Trump. So now is the time to show that he can do a better job than Trump, and that him and the rest of the people in his administration can get it done. So, I hope, this is me not being cynical. I do hope that they're able to get the job done, because I want to get the damn vaccine, and I want everyone, all of my loved ones to get the vaccine as well.
I think so. Maybe 2 months ago, my godmother in a conversation said that she was not comfortable getting the vaccine. That she wasn't. And then so like my godmother, she is probably one of the closest persons to me that's still living, because a lot of other people have passed. And so that initially concerned me. But then I heard yesterday that she had gotten it, that her friends had encouraged her to. So she lives, I think she lives in Virginia. And so I was really, happy to have heard that. Because I think it's important. Like, again, we're not going to, it's going to take a very long time to get back to the days of not wearing masks and being able to, not social distance. We're going to still have to do that, until, early next year, perhaps. You get what I'm saying? But I think the vaccine gives us this added protection, and also knowing that, if we do so happen to contract it, that, our bodies will be equipped to fight it. And so, like, for example, I hadn't been to my brother's house since the summer, because part of me just didn't feel comfortable being indoors. And so, we would hang out outside, and that was great, with the social distance and all that other stuff. But also, because part of me, like, I'm like, I don't want to inadvertently expose them, but then I also don't want to walk into there and be exposed. But with the vaccine, and if we're all getting the vaccine, we could do those sorts of things more comfortably without having, this weighing over our heads like, oh no, let's and stuff like that. And so I'm just continue to have those, types of discussions. Like, it's not a, complete fix, and it's not going to go back to the days of normal, but it will give us this opportunity to be closer. And that's what I'm longing for. Yeah, it's been 11 months, and it's it's becoming draining. Yeah.
Yeah, it is exhausting, and it is really sad, and it is really grim. And I think that, like, one of the important things for me is that, like, I want folks to know that we want to preserve the most vulnerable members of our community. We want to preserve our elders, and we want to preserve our communities. We want everyone to be here for as long as they possibly can, so that we can continue to enjoy them, so we can continue to love them, and because they have a lot of insight. And so we want all of those things. So remember, stay 6 feet away from folks. Wear your mask. Don't go out if you don't have to. If you plan or need information to get vaccinated, do your research. Find out where or how you can sign up for an appointment to get your vaccination if you're looking to get one, because it's important. We want everyone to be here for a long time. Okay, that was COVID-19. We haven't visited COVID-19 in a while, and so I thought I would end this on a happy note. One of the people that stole the show during the inauguration was Bernie Sanders because of his outfit. And so he's become a international sensation and meme. The mittens that he wore at the inauguration had like sold out in like hours after people figured out where he got them, which is like some school teacher that knits them or something. But I got so much pleasure and joy, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but political memes are hilarious, but they also speak volumes to the realities that are happening in countries all over the world. And I think that, like, I kind of needed Bernie on Inauguration Day, and the memes that instantly came of it really brought a lot of joy to my life. So I just wanted to like pop them up there, and if folks had any thoughts on the Bernie memes, that they can like chime in. But they are really, really hilarious. They did some really, really good job. They did a really good job. All these people that are making these are hilarious. There's an Up parody one. These memes are just amazing. And so I don't know what folks' thoughts were on them, what they got from them, but they brought me a little bit of pleasure and a little bit of joy in like a really solemn and serious like ceremony of this like changing of the guard to the new president. So who has thoughts?
Yeah, it was definitely amusing. It was definitely amusing and refreshing just to kind of have something to poke fun at. I do know that apparently Bernie has just recently become aware of it, and his team has designed sweatshirts with it, and that the money will go to charity or something like that. So, I think that's nice of him to do that. I did see the other side of things where people were really breaking it down to the point where they missed the point. Like, I mean, I get it. So there was a critique that, the fact that he looks so disgruntled in a moment where, the first female Black South Asian vice president is being elected, so how dare you, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't think that was the purpose. I think it was just something funny that people caught in a moment.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I find them funny.
I also think that that's Bernie Sanders' demeanor. I don't really think that Bernie sits around like laughing and smiling.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he is a grumpy old man.
Yeah.
Like
That was 100%
Yeah.
him. That was
I
him
mean,
in his
he
natural,
is.
well, unnatural habitat, but yeah.
What were you saying, Beacon?
So I don't read it as grumpy though. I just read it as, you know, for like if we're looking at the picture, I'm reading as it's cold out. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I'm sitting alone.
Yeah, you got me out
I'm
here.
sitting alone. Like I'm here. Like what else? Like how? Like what look was he supposed to be giving? Sitting in a chair, like alone, in the cold. In his head, he's probably like, so when does this get started again?
Well, this is true,
Yeah,
right? Because we only see the made-for-TV portion of it. We see the part where, like,
Right.
the cameras are there, but they've been sitting or somewhere out there for a while, really just sitting there while someone comes out on a mic and is like, and now the Honorable Miss former President Clinton, former Secretary Clinton, and like, I'm outside for 15 minutes in the cold and I'm over it. Like, I can imagine him being out there.
I'm going to be the cliche person that's been born and raised in California. Like, I'm not used to that cold of weather. I would have been more bundled up than Bernie was. Like, that was just him trying to be warm and comfy. But like, if you saw pictures of Janet Yellen, she had like a huge puffy jacket with a hood over, and then she had a big ass blanket on her lap. That would have been me. Like, forget Bernie. Like, he looked like he was too cold. Like, I would have just done everything that I would have brought my own personal space heater. Like that's all it is. It's just him being comfy. People are trying to take it to a huge extreme of being like that. It's like a anti-feminist thing for him to be doing it, and I'm always here for takes, but I just think he was just being comfy. And I also think that like any coverage about the memes that came out, like it's the internet, like it's memes on Twitter. Like this isn't actually significant. Memes on Twitter are not changing public policy.
Yeah.
Like it's just a fucking meme. That's all it is.
Yeah.
He was comfy. He was trying to be warm. And it was a meme.
I think that
That's
people.
it.
Yeah. I think that people. I think they react to it in the same way that they react to political comic strips, where like. It's kind of the same vein, but also because it can be made by pretty much anyone, it's really just poking fun at it more so than it is like trying to push a policy.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed them. I thought it was hilarious. I love that it was instant. Like someone caught the image and immediately was like, to the internet, I must go. And then it just blew up like wildfire. My favorite is like, this could have been an email. The one that says this could have been an email. That has got to be my favorite one because I'm like, like y'all could have done this in the Oval Office. There could have just been 2 cameras there and we could have been like, bada bing, bada bang, start signing executive orders. But there they were, all out there for like an hour and a half in the freaking cold January in DC. I thought it was fun. I'm also ready to see Beacon at the next inauguration with their space heater trying to get through security. Like,
oh my god, no.
No. It's a space heater.
I got my extension cord. I'm just running it around.
Like I brought my own generator. Don't worry, I'm not gonna have to plug in anywhere.
Oh my god.
I agree with Beacon. I think that memes are not changing policy, but I do think that memes are like they're very much they're like they can be representations of like what's happening in the present. And I think that was a funny moment from the inauguration where they caught Bernie Sanders doing something and he was just like, this is just how I sit as an older guy with my mittens and my thick coat. And then like it just, people are really clever and they're really, really, really good at like being witty, and the memes are fire. I enjoyed them thoroughly throughout Greg and I kept sending them to each other, and you all kept sending them to me in the group chat. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Bernie Sanders, for being in Inauguration and wearing mittens and sitting like that. I appreciate it thoroughly. And that's it for us, folks. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your labor. We'll be here next week, hopefully with not a if it's quiet, we're gonna introduce more of these air horn and applause sounds into the show. Oh, God. And Beacon will start removing more articles of clothing if it starts getting slow out there in the political world. But thank you for joining us again this weekend. We'll be here next Sunday with the PoGo Weekly Digest. Good night, everyone. Remember, stay safe, stay 6 feet apart, wear your mask. Oh, a wet t-shirt contest. I just heard that in my ear somewhere. In the name of politics. Good night, everyone. Have a good weekend. We'll see you all here next weekend.
Good night.